Wow. Okay, and with that, we're finally live. Howdy, everyone. I have never had so much trouble trying to get something to come up. So sorry. This one's just being sad today. And it looks like I don't have the Facebook feed at the moment because we went live 10 minutes late. Oh well. Well, I apologize. Um Lots of things did not work out. I've been fighting with everything over here, including my lungs. So I apologize. We're just gonna rock this like it's a podcast today. So let's see. Let's say howdy to everyone in the chat. So you got Cheese Freak, Ginger Snap, Gene Hudson, Titan, Susan Robertson, and now my dog is freaking out. This is why I don't do Tuesdays. Tuesdays are the worst day of the week. Just as a little known fact, Tuesdays are actually mathematically the worst day of the week. Most great tragedies occur on Tuesdays. Anyway, Susan Robertson, MH1953, and that seems to be it for now. So, howdy. Again, I apologize for being late. Everything in the world decided to not work today. I mean, everything. So, but we're here. That's all that matters. And I say that, and I see a problem. Okay. I'm going to hop off for just a moment. Y'all stay where you are. I'm going to fix this, and then we'll be good to go. I'll be right back. Okay, I think I finally got it fixed. It's like my dad used to say, if it doesn't work, use a bigger hammer. All right. Hopefully one last time. Howdy. So, let's see. We're 15 minutes into the show. Only been live for 5 minutes and only been talking for 3. That's how this day is going to go, people. Stephen Hill, CJ, welcome. Given the situation with my voice, I think we may keep this one. We may need to keep this one short. So let me. Sorry. Then let me go ahead and say the important things real quick. Firstly, I'll actually be sending money for Alan tomorrow. So if y'all have again $5-10 hanging around, it's going to be a heck of a lot more to him than it is to a lot of other people. So if you can get that sent over this evening or tomorrow morning, it should be perfectly fine. Secondly, and this is what I think is the most important, thank y'all. This is not something that I would have ever seen myself doing, per se. And this weird little family that we have going here, this little Bible study is, not something I ever would have thought was something that was possible, per se, or that even anyone cared. And yet here y'all are. It's a computer screen, but we're doing life together. We're having the real conversations. We're helping people on the other side of the world with Alan. Yeah, this isn't a channel with millions of followers, and I don't want it to be. I like how intimate this is. I like the fact that I know y'all, that I can call everyone out, that I can answer questions. I like the fact that it's small and that we can be weird, we can be silly, we can be serious. But I just want to let y'all know that I'm thankful for y'all. And as weird and terrible as the world looks right now, I'm thankful that we're all here together, that God chose us to be here. I think it's really easy to be thankful for God for the wonderful things. I think it's sometimes it's hard to be thankful for the things that we're coming against, that we're fighting for. It's hard to be thankful for those because they're not the easy things, but they are the things that matter the most. And y'all are here with me fighting for the things that matter. We're trying to have a conversation that most churches will never have. And I'm thankful for y'all. Sorry. Yeah, I don't think my voice is necessarily going to give out for too long. But I wanted to say thank you to y'all. I hope y'all have a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully Sunday comes around, everything is back to normal. Whatever normal is. But I'm grateful for y'all. I'm thankful that God has put us all here together. I'm thankful for the fight that He's given us to fight, that He has chosen us to do this fight. On that note, let's do a couple minutes of questions. Like I said, I'll do as long as my lungs can hold out, but I don't think that's going to be very long. Really, it's like I sound terrible, and I am perfectly fine. Hold on one second. Like, I know I sound absolutely terrible, and I'm actually I'm good. It's just for whatever reason, the longer I talk, the more the more coughing I seem to do. And yes, trust me, I'm getting every vitamin imaginable right now. So in fact, that was my daughter just dropping off some saltines and ginger ale. But yeah, no, we're all good. Like I said, we've vitamin C, vitamin D. We may even be having some of the other stuff. Just saying. So we're doing good. But yeah, let's hold on. I'm looking at Gene Hudson's thing. I like the idea of Brandy and Vix. Okay, just so y'all know. It mentioned 1953. I wish you could too. But I'm like I said, I really do have like everything. My wife has been a long time oils person. So I've got every oil on the planet in me, on me, around me. Like I said, I've got vitamin D, vitamin C, all the good stuff. I don't even know half the stuff I'm taking it anymore. I just do what my mom or what my wife tells me. And yes, Titan, I'm actually off of my allergy meds at the moment, just for that reason. So, but yeah, like I said, I really am fine. Just for whatever reason, my voice is just not gonna. It's just we're at this point where it's just not gonna hold out. And I don't want y'all to suffer through this for much longer. Honestly, this is terrible. I feel terrible you are listening to me at this point. But cheese freak, I may or may not be doing that. I won't give the YouTube overlords any satisfaction. That's all I'm saying. So it's gonna be I guess I got my tea over here, and y'all don't even want to see what I do to my tea. I don't do sugar, I don't do honey, I just do straight tea. I'm hardcore that way. But since y'all loving people have hopped on, yeah, you know what, Susan, I may chalk this entire day up to that. I really might. It's just it really may just be this whole day. They're putting me to it, but you know what? I'm still going to be here. And I think Image 1953 is wanting me to snort straight Vicks. I can do that. It's about to make a joke. It would have been very inappropriate, particularly with CJ listening. You know, her young ears. That would have been a terrible, terrible thing. But yeah, no, like I said, we're fine. We're all good over here. Everyone's fine. It just sounds worse than it really is. So let's do a couple of questions real quick. Anything going on in the news that makes you think one thing or the other, makes you sad, makes you happy, makes you wonder something? Oh yeah, the pigs. Let me say that one I did not expect to go the way it went. I honestly went into that study thinking it was going to be just one of those things that gets overblown, right? This whole connection with the pigs and Rome and the politics of it. And it not only is it not overblown, like I said, some people are mishandling the argument. That's nothing new. Not only does it sort of did it go a completely different way, it really, like I said, that honestly that whole pig thing with Legion is still in my head too. I did not expect to find that. Sometimes you've got, okay, cheese freak ginger snap is sitting there trying to make certain that I get canned from YouTube. So, but just finishing up on the whole Legion thing and what we found, I'm going to be honest, that one has surprised me. The only thing that I have found that surprised me as much or even more was the whole 2012 or 2017 alignment. Like it's one of those things where the more you dig into that one, the more obvious it becomes. In the same way with the pig thing, it was like, okay, there were aspects of people were making the argument was mishandled, but like the deeper I dug, the more it keeps popping up, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But I didn't want it to be one of those things where it's like, okay, so the whole thing's a metaphor. But I think one of the things I'm really starting to see, particularly with the scriptures, is it's not that numbers aren't literal sometimes. It's that they're not always necessarily literal. sometimes they are meant for um, they're meant for narrative purposes, right? Because stop and think about it. 2,000 years ago, what would it matter if you had 4,000 people on one, out there listening to Jesus, or 4,500, or 5,123? Like, it wouldn't have made a difference, right? That's not a number. Like, we like to be really, really precise. We want to know how many people have shown up to something, how many people logged into a thing, and we want to know to the person with ontological certitude. For them, if you got thousands of people, it doesn't matter. And so the number becomes a message in and of itself. Again, the 153 fish. Well, it doesn't matter if it's 153 large fish. Like that's not a number that should matter, except that the fact that 153 has a meaning to it. Like, do you think they actually sat there and made certain it was 153? And so it's like once you sort of understand that, it's like that's not how their minds worked. Then you start to understand that sometimes those numbers are metaphorical and they're trying to tell you something else. And it makes the Bible a lot easier to understand, particularly when you look at the Old Testament. And once you understand that the Old Testament is not written the way we think, a lot of things just become easier. You don't have you don't have the supposed discrepancies that atheists like to complain about. So, hey, we're all learning, right? I mean, and so just to see that sometimes these numbers can have broader meaning and it's being very deliberate, but we don't always see it because of our cultural context. I love it. See, y'all are now arguing over who has the best son-in-law. I would like to say that you're all wrong, and it's my mother-in-law has the best son-in-law. All right, cheese free ginger snap. So what is your question about Rittenhouse in general? Like, is there a specific question? Oh, in the metaverse? Oh, yeah. While cheese free ginger snaps types out her specific question about Senor Kyle, to CJ's question, what do I think about the metaverse? It's just the next step, right? It's interesting. What's his name? Luke Rukowski. I think this isn't Rukowski. Anyway, if you watch Tim Pool, he shows up there a lot. He's a regular. And he sells t-shirts. He's one of those sort of long standing independent journalists who goes into the weirdness of the world. And he has these t-shirts with all the different sort of sort of the post-apocalyptic worlds, like V for Vendetta, the Hunger Games, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, and they're all sort of overlapping in like a Venn diagram. In the middle it says "You are here." I think it's interesting that so many of these, not one story got it 100% correct, but everyone got a slice of the pie correct in a lot of ways. Even Demolition Man got. I think Demolition Man got way more right than people realize. But like everyone got a slice of the pie correct, right? And I think the metaverse is something that we very much see in a lot of this, particularly like say not even 1984, although you could argue it's a part of that sort of that idea of trapping you in a fake world. You could argue it's the Matrix gets it right to a point. You could argue that I think it's probably though closer to Brave New World, where these this metaverse is essentially an electronic drug trapping you in your artificial happiness so that you have no real effect on the world. That's what I think the metaverse is. It's just one more layer to this pie, and it's this matrix like false reality to try and keep people from interacting with the real world. That's what this is. Um, and what's worse, I think the thing that's worse about all of it, and I'm going to say something that is going to sound controversial, but give me 2 seconds on it. I don't think any of this technology is in and of itself evil, including the mark of the beast. And let me explain that. If the mark of the beast is, as like a lot of us have theorized, a chip that allows people to track funds, to track where you're going, those kinds of things, right? And you maintain your identity, it actually solves a lot of problems. The problem is not ultimately the technology itself; it's the people who are in control of it. The problem with the mark of the beast is that it comes with a with your promise to worship the Antichrist. The technology itself is actually going to be beneficial. I think the metaverse, if if we were a better species in general, and if we knew we could trust people with it, I think the metaverse in many ways is a great idea. The problem is we can see how it goes wrong. Something may be, think about all throughout your life, how many times things sound so good. And if they worked the way they were advertised, it would be great, but they don't, because the people doing it are terrible people, or they're not smart enough to really pull it off the correct way. And the reason I say all this is why it's going to be ultimately inevitable, because the technologies are of themselves beneficial. It's the power that it gives people. That's what's evil about it. So, but yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the metaverse is just a false reality to keep you from interacting with the real world, because that's what they don't want you to do. They want scroll up here a little bit. Yes, cheese free ginger snap Animal Farm is on the shirt as well. So what it's called learned helplessness. I discovered this a couple of years ago. I think it was Joe Rogan was talking about this. But there's this idea called learned helplessness, and what happens is you train someone from an early enough age that they are fundamentally helpless. It doesn't matter how powerful they become. They will believe that they don't have the ability to do anything. And the example that is always used is an elephant, right? In India, in circuses, you see these big, massive elephants, and they're just tied down by a tiny rope, like a little hemp rope, right, to a stake in the ground that they could very easily rip up if they had by moving forward. The stake would give them absolutely no hesitation. It would give immediately, but it keeps them where they are. And the story goes that the trainers, when they're young, they actually use chains and things that are concrete in. So no matter how hard the elephant struggles while it's young, it can never escape. And once it's at a certain point, it just believes that it's always going to be incapable of removing that obstacle. So that when they're adults and they are powerful, it is a tiny hemp rope around their leg and a little wooden stake that would give them you wouldn't give them a moment's pause to just move forward and get rid of it. But they won't do it, because they believe that they are incapable of making a change. Our entire society has been designed and has told us that as individuals, we are weak. That as individuals, we have no power. That as individuals, we are nothing. That we need leaders. That we need the powerful to make us powerful. The metaverse is one more way for us to learn helplessness and to keep us addicted to the softer, finer things of life so that we don't do the hard work of fixing this world. And Christians and Americans, we've all learned to be helpless. I hope that helps. Oh yeah. Every time I turn around, y'all have said so much here. Yeah. So I want to go back to something 1953 said about how the Bible makes it very clear, like all throughout the Old Testament, when something is going bad, it makes it very clear by saying they did what was right in their own eyes. That's the key phrase that lets you know everything's gone. Like everything has gone very, very poorly. And as 1953 points out, woe unto those who call good evil and evil good. Well, that's the age that we're in, right? Everything is good as to someone in their own eyes, except for actual good. I mean, stop and think about the insanity of your personal pronouns, right? Think about how insane that is. You're saying, "Hey, I'm a narcissist, and this is what you're going to do with me or for me. You got to conform to my reality. You've got to conform to what I individually believe, and everyone's going to have their own personal pronouns. You're going to be you're he, she, him, them, their, Baphomet, dim and demon self, unicorn self, Libra self. It's the most obscene idea. But to sit there and say, hold on, there's an objective reality. Men are men and women are women. And suddenly you're the evil one. You're the narcissist. It's inverted because ultimately that's what Satan does. Satan isn't a creator. He's a destroyer. He's a perverter of that which is good. He inverts it. It's all he ever does. That's why all of the things all you need to do is look at how he operates to understand why things are the way they are. He can't create, so he perverts, he twists it. Instead of sex being between one man and one woman for procreation and to build a stronger, closer bond, it becomes and is of ultimate value, both societally and spiritually. It becomes non-productive and purely for fun. It becomes entertainment and has no value. Well, why do you think he's doing that? Because he's debasing us. Because once you don't have value, once your life has no value, it ties into the learned helplessness. Because you have no value. How could you have power if you have no value? But if you have value, you have power. So on to Rittenhouse, real quick, because there's a lot of thoughts there. MH 1953 identifies as a crawfish. I agree. I would like to be a marmoset. Or a manatee. I'm a manatee. That's my personal pronoun. I'm a manatee. So, on Rittenhouse. In general, Rittenhouse had nothing to do with him. He was a vehicle. The entire point of the trial was to tell people, don't do this. Don't stand up for your neighborhood. Don't stand up for other people. You need to stay down. That's what Rittenhouse was. And the thing is, I don't think necessarily that it wasn't successful. Now, I do think you can make the argument it wasn't smart for him to be there. He is 17 years old. He made mistakes, but the thing is, he was there doing the right thing. End of story. That's where the conversation needs to end. Because if you want to say he shouldn't have been there, great. Because he didn't need to be there. Well, let me ask the question. Well, then who was there in his place? Wasn't the cops? Wasn't the National Guard? Wasn't the people who were charged with protecting those neighborhoods? They weren't there. So if not Kyle, then who was supposed to be there? I'm the first one to say, when all that was going on, I was not about to go out and defend somebody else's neighborhood. Because to be honest, a lot of the neighborhoods that were getting burned down were the neighborhoods that voted for that. And I do believe that maybe we've hit that point where we need to let the people who are voting this way, who are voting for evil, suffer the consequences of their evil. But that having been said, I will never condemn Kyle Rittenhouse for doing what he did, because he stood up to do the right thing. And for everyone who says he shouldn't have been there, I ask, who should have been there? And why is your question, and why isn't your response, why did Kyle Rittenhouse need to be there when there were so many other people who were supposed to be there? But as far as the societal overarching societal aspect of it, the entire trial was designed to tell the rest of us not to stand up and do the right thing. That's what it was designed to do. It said, hey, if you do this, we're going to punish you. Even if you get off, even if you don't go to jail, your life will be ruined one way or the other. Please understand. I know we're all sitting here saying, yeah, he's going to own. We don't know what Nick Sandmann actually got. Everyone throws around this $250 million number. He did not get $250 million. That was one of the numbers that was thrown out originally, but that's not what they settled for. They settled for way less than that. He's not going to necessarily do the kind of damage to these institutions that everyone seems to think. Even though I think he's got a much better case in many ways, I don't think he's going to, he's not going to be ruining these CNN and MSNBC. I don't think he's going to ruin them. Now, if there's 20 more Rittenhouses, I think maybe there's a chance that would start to affect their bottom line, which is all they care about. But the point of Rittenhouse is to tell the rest of us not to help, not to, to stand down, not to fight when it's necessary. I just personally didn't believe that, Kenosha was a necessary fight for all the reasons I just stated. But I think this is for the future. When the fight does become necessary, it's to make everyone say, I don't want to be another Rittenhouse. That's what this trial was. So why did they tell him to go home when he turned himself in? Here's the problem. It was a riot. The cops, they had their own problems. And this is something we need to remember with the whole Rittenhouse thing. I am as pro-police as you get, but I'm pro-good policing. And the problem is that what we've seen, and I think Michael Balance is a great observation. There is no law so vile or so tyrannical that the police will not enforce it. Think about what we've always traditionally said. No, that can't happen here in the U.S. The military will not stand for it. The local police will not stand for it. But what have we seen over the last 2 years? The police will allow rioters to burn down your city, but they'll arrest a hairdresser for opening her business. The FBI will protect pedophiles, but they'll come after a father whose daughter was raped in a public school. The military is just as bad. Now, everyone's like, well, it's not everyone. It doesn't have to be everyone. But where the problem is, if all the good police officers are quitting, and they are, then what do you think we're left with? And how many of the good police shut down businesses because they were told to? How many people do you think in the FBI had to be involved for Epstein not to get prosecuted for 30 years? At the end of the day, this is part of the learned helplessness. We have been told to trust the system. Rittenhouse showed us we can't trust the system, and the system struck back to tell us to trust the system. Not because we should not because they are trustworthy, but because we are not governed, we are not citizens, we are cattle. That is what happened. It makes 1953. How can someone go and burn down somebody else's house or someone's business? It's because they're evil. Sinful behavior is against yourself. Evil behavior is against another. They're evil. Well, in G's free gender snap, the the vacuum cleaner that the military has to take is the least of it. Look at what happened with Afghanistan, and look at who got jailed because of it. It was a colonel who was calling for accountability on how screwed up that pullout was. He's the one who goes to prison and goes to jail, not the people who executed it, not the people who planned it, not the people who didn't stand up and say, no, this is a terrible idea. We're not going to leave this. We're not just going to abandon this airport that that's vital to us in the middle of the night to allow the Taliban to grab all the weapons. Something, by the way, that Biden was keenly aware of 5-6 years ago. He actually talked about that. So he was keenly aware of what would happen if we just pulled out. And yet he did it anyway. At some point, we need to start realizing this is not incompetence. Again, the old story, it's the old saying, never account to malice that which can be ascribed to incompetence. But at a certain point, when do you say that there's too much incompetence for it to not be malice? Titan is absolutely correct. In fact, you know what? Titan, you've inspired me. That is going to be Sunday. We're going to talk on Sunday about that. Because I think that is a verse that has been deliberately misunderstood. All right. Wrote my note. So we will definitely talk about that verse because I think that is one of those verses that is absolutely just completely misused. Gene, yeah, that wasn't in Kenosha. That was in Waukesha, and you notice that they're not talking about it anymore. They're not, because we know who he is now, and the media went as far as they could to try and not tell you who he was or what his history was. So yeah, that's a great example of what I'm talking about. It's not it's this You can't chalk all this up to incompetence. It's just not. This is not a bug. It's a feature. No, Titan, you did not misuse it. You did not misuse it, but in general, so many people do. So I think it would be. I think it's a. Thank you for reminding me of it, so we can talk about it. It's okay, Gene. You know what? It doesn't really matter. Um, Ultimately, again, it doesn't necessarily. I mean, it matters to us, but it's basically in the same area. So yeah, I don't think it doesn't matter. On that note, I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm gonna go lay down for a little bit, and I will see y'all on Sunday. I hope y'all have a great Thanksgiving. Remember, I'll be sending money to Alan tomorrow, so if you have an extra $5 or $10 hanging around, I know he would appreciate it. That goes a long way, at least for the time being, where he is. So if you can, please send it by tomorrow afternoon, and I will get that out to him ASAP. On that, other than that, I hope y'all have a great Thanksgiving. Let's understand that as terrible as things seem to be right now, God is, unfortunately, he is sort of fulfilling what he talked about. That he came to bring a sword. He's the scripture will separate bone and marrow. Right? He did not come necessarily to bring uniformity. He didn't come to bring uh, togetherness. He came to separate. Unfortunately, sometimes the people he came to separate is our own those within our own family. As painful as it is, we need to be thankful for that. I'm here to tell you, I've seen it happen far too often that in the search for niceness and the search for unity, compromises are made. I think it's time. I think we're coming to that point where it's beyond. It's time to move beyond compromise as Christians, and we need to stand for what is true. And that means that we're going to be separated from those that we called friends and those we called family. But God gives us new friends and new family and new purpose. We can be thankful for all of these things. I love y'all. I'll see y'all on Sunday. Be good.